Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us for the very first NMEDA Town Hall. We're glad that you're here today. I know several of you will be joining us as we get started, and I'd like to go over just a few ground rules and some concepts around the Town Hall today. The purpose for these is really to communicate with you, our members. We get a chance at the annual convention and conference to talk to you a little bit, but we realize that there's not an opportunity for bidirectional communication throughout the year. We send out publications and emails and different things that let you hear from us, but this is a true opportunity for us to hear from you and try to do our best to answer some of your questions. So welcome. Thanks for being here. Thanks for taking time out of your day. I know that your time is important for your family and your work. So we really appreciate you trying to be aware of what your association is trying to do for you and the value we're trying to bring. A couple of housekeeping items as we get started. This will have closed captions available in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. There should be a button where if you're having a hard time understanding us, you can click that button and the words will be typed on the bottom of the screen. Sometimes folks like to watch these and not have the audio in the room. That way you can just read the closed captions, so feel free to use that. Our interface with you today will be through the Q&A function button, which should be at the top of your screen. You should have something that says Q&A. Here's where you can submit questions. And when you submit the questions, we and the moderating team will get those questions and we'll do our best to answer them. We will not read your name when we read the questions, so feel free to be as open and as candid as you would like. But if you submit a question, we will do our best to submit that question to the people that are here today to see if we get an answer. And if we can't get an answer or we don't know the answer to the question you have, we will definitely get back to you. We can see who has submitted the question, but we will not be disclosing that as we do the town hall today. So feel free to ask questions anytime during this next hour that we're speaking. Don't think you need to wait to the end. If you have a question, pop it into the Q&A portion. It'll come into a queue. We'll keep track of it and bring it up when we need to. After we do have last thing for housekeeping is we will have a recording of this session available to those of you who attended, and we'll probably make it available via our website or some other means on our YouTube channel, possibly for the rest of the group that didn't get a chance to come in today and see this. So again, I can't thank you enough for being here, for caring about what your association is doing. The scope and the purpose really for these town halls, again, they'll be quarterly. I'll talk to you at the end of the session today about when the next town hall will be. But we wanted to try to make it relevant for what's going on today in your world. And the first two speakers we're going to have on staff today are really, I call it the tip of the spear, but they're the ones that are in the field, doing the work, taking the phone calls, interfacing with members, interfacing with our government and our Veterans Administration. And they're really going to give you the update on what the work is that they've been doing. So today's agenda will have some topics around the Automobility Price Survey. We'll get an update on the Past Due Invoice program and how that's working and some of the things you'll need to know to make that successful for you. And then we'll have Sean Richmond, who is our new Government Relations Director, speaking to you a little bit about the VA and what we're doing with that. I know some of you were at the conference in Kansas City where we had an on-site in-purpose intentional meeting with the Veterans Administration. We have followed up with them and had several meetings since then, so you'll get a little bit of update as we go with that. Finally, after the first two speakers speak, we will wrap up, take questions from you, and do our best to interface with you when we can. So with no further ado, at this time, I would like Michaela Poulos to come on and talk to you a little bit about the Automobility Price Survey and the Past Due Invoice program, and we will take your questions. Please submit them in the Q&A. Thanks.
Hello, thank you, Toby, and welcome to everyone who was able to join us today. So I'm just going to dive right in. First, I'm going to talk about our Automobility Price Survey, also referred to as AMPS. This is a survey that is sent out to all of our good standing QAP accredited dealers, and it is to be completed independently by each dealer. It encompasses 112 items, and they're grouped into 8 different categories. I'm not going to go into those right now. If you have any questions about what they are, please feel free to reach out. An independent third party collects the data, tabulates it by region. We don't see anything. We do encourage participation because it helps decide whether the data will be presented as the average or the median of the collected values. And it really also, participation determines whether or not we're going to be able to publish the data and give it to our government partners. We have started a task force. We started that this year. It's a group of 10 NMEDA members. It's dealers, manufacturers, senior consultants. We started the task force because there were questions raised on certain things that really the people that we've picked are the ones who should answer this. Like questions raised on breaking down the foreign versus domestic even further, missing equipment due to technological advancements. There was in the past misunderstanding on what should be included in the pricing, like should freight be included or separate, should labor be included or separate. So again, we do want to deliver relevant, comprehensive industry data to our government partners. We are hoping to have the survey out, the data collected, tabulated, and released by the end of Q1 or the first month in Q2. We know that can be a stretch, so bear with us. Again, we encourage participation so we can produce relevant data. The next thing I want to go into is our Past Due Invoice program, also known as PDI. This is a program designed for us, NMEDA, to help get your VA or Veterans Affairs past due invoices resolved sooner and more frequently. We ask that you submit to us invoices that have been submitted to the VA for payment and are now 60 plus days past due. So 60 or more days past due. Please use the newest version of the spreadsheet to submit, as this asks for criteria that will help streamline the research process for the VA. Please send every invoice every month. If an invoice you submitted it in January and it's still not paid in February, please submit again in February. I will divide the invoices into 2 separate spreadsheets within one Excel workbook. One will be for the new submissions and one will be for previous submissions that are still unpaid, because we do want to continue to track all that. And we want to gauge how many invoices are getting paid from month to month. And we can't do that if you don't submit every invoice every time. If it's submitted in January and not submitted again in February, we assume that it was paid, but that may not be the case. So please submit. We do have monthly meetings set up with a representative from the VHA and the VBA. We discuss the PDI spreadsheet with them. They are looking at the oldest unpaid invoices first and working their way through the list. So it does take time for them to research. It is a very large list. Our last meeting with them, they did go over a couple of cases with us, and I did reach out to the dealers who had submitted those particular ones, asking questions. So yes, they are working through it. I was told at the last meeting with them, they are going to add a notes column and submit to me once a month. I had originally asked for weekly, but apparently that was a little bit much. So they did say they are going to submit it to me monthly, and that way I can touch base with the dealers who made those submissions. So please, please, please submit. And I believe that's everything I am going to go over at this time. So
All right,
I will
Michaela,
turn it back over
I've
to
got a
Toby.
few questions for you, Michaela. Actually, I have them myself.
Okay.
Yeah, so you guys are intending to meet monthly with the VA. I know a lot of our members have between 20 to 28 to 30% of their business sometimes, depending on what dealership you're at, is dealing with the VA. So if I'm hearing this correctly, you're going to submit your invoices that are 60 days past due, and you said there's a spreadsheet to use. Where do they find that spreadsheet?
Oh, the spreadsheet is on our website under the Advocacy and the VA section on our website. If you are unable to locate it, please reach out to me and I will send it to you.
Great. So they submit that spreadsheet with any past due invoices. And again, I think you said all of the information in that spreadsheet helps us really communicate with the VA as to the information they need to go check in on those past due invoices and to find out the reason why they haven't been paid. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, that is correct. So there is an older version of the spreadsheet, but with our previous two meetings with the VA, they asked us to add a few more columns with criteria that helps them to research. And it kind of makes their process go a little bit quicker.
Great. That's what we needed to know. So I understand as a member value, this is something that we're providing to our members that are having a hard time getting paid. We have staff resources here doing that work. You all are meeting monthly with them. Tell me who you're meeting with. It's not as easy and streamlined, I think, as just one phone call. Is that correct? And is there multiple groups of people and things that how does it really work? What does it look like?
So we meet, it's Sean and myself meet, and we also have Jessica, our accounting and operations manager, on the call as well, who she takes the notes from the meeting. And then we have a representative from the VHA, and that is Shayla Mitchell. And we also have a representative from the VBA, which is Elroy Casey. And if I remember correctly, Shayla is, I want to say, fourth in line at the VHA. She does have a manager role there, and Elroy is in financial operations with the VBA. So I feel comfortable with who we meet with.
Great. Thank you for that, Michaela. We do have a question that came in, but it will be pertinent in our next speaker's presentation. So I will hold on that question to talk a little bit more about that when Sean is speaking. Michaela, thanks for that information. I greatly appreciate it. I know we're working hard to get our folks paid from the Veterans Administration. It is a mess. I think one of the things that you may have witnessed or seen in your meetings is that we hear from our members all the time that this is the process they use, it does or doesn't work, and then we hear a different set of processes from other members. Any insight on that as far as the differences that we're seeing from VA office to VA office?
So yes, there are quite a few differences. Each VA office, unfortunately, does seem to be their own little thing. Shayla has asked that we do present to her different procedure and process issues. So on the smaller scale, as those come up with questions that they have surrounding certain submissions, we do present those during that meeting, but we also keep in mind that it's more pertinent to get those issues to actual decision makers, the folks who can change rules, change laws, that kind of thing. So we don't want to, if for lack of a better term, waste anyone's time going that route. However, with the way the rules are currently written, if there is a major disconnect, those are brought up during the meetings because that needs to be remedied now. Is that what you were asking for,
That's
Toby?
exactly what I'm asking for. Michaela, thanks for your time. Thanks for the information. Thanks for the work you're doing with these meetings with the VA and with our members. At this time, I'd like to bring on Sean, who is our Government Relations and Public Policy Manager. Sean's going to spend a little bit of time talking about additional things with the VA from the political side and the regulatory side and where we're at with some of those things. And Sean, I'll have a question for you here shortly, but welcome, Sean.
Hey, everybody. Good afternoon. If you haven't had the opportunity to meet me, my name is Sean Richmond, and I've been in this role for about 6 weeks. So I got everything under control, and I know how to, go through the whole VA and ready to start kicking butt. But we get questions every day about what's going on with the new administration. How are things going to be moving forward? And frankly, right now, we don't know. The new administration is moving fast. We're seeing confirmations going left and right. There's confirmations going on as we speak right now. Some of the higher ones have been more publicized, but one of the people that are going through the confirmation process is Doug Collins. He was picked by President Trump to be the Veterans Administration Affairs Secretary. Now, who is Doug Collins? Doug Collins is a veteran. He's a colonel in the Air Force Reserve, formerly Navy. He's also was a congressional member and also state representative in Georgia. He represented the 9th District of Georgia, which is like the northern eastern part of Georgia. He's married with 3 kids. His daughter was born with spina bifida, and she uses a wheelchair on a daily basis. Last Thursday, he did go through his Veterans Administration Committee confirmation hearing. It was a short hearing. It took only about 2.5 hours, where if you compare that to RFK Jr.'s hearing today, it's going to take over 2 days. So 2.5 hours sounds a lot more palatable. He passed that committee hearing with a vote of 18-1. And he's waiting on to get in front of the full Senate for his full confirmation hearing. I don't think that he'll have an issue getting through that. I think you'll see him be confirmed with a very high numbers in the 80s, the 90s, total members voting on him. But you never know what happens in those hearings. So we're just hopeful to hear from him. We're pretty optimistic about Doug Collins, being in the Veterans Administration. He understands what it is to be a veteran, and he also understands what it is to live with somebody who uses a wheelchair on a day-to-day basis. So we feel at NMEDA that is going to benefit us, and he'll lend some empathy to our cases that we're dealing with, and hopefully we can get some of the situations that you guys are dealing with. Like I mentioned, the VA committee, the Senate on the Senate side is represented by 19 members, chaired by Jerry Moran out of Kansas. NMEDA has spent a lot of time in this committee and has built a lot of friends throughout the years. And we're going to lean on these people because the new administration has been very clear about, cutting waste and getting things done. Doug Collins promised to slash regulations and root out corruption at the VA and to give the veterans what they've been promised. So with statements like that, like I said, we're very optimistic on where this is going to lead to the future. One of the things that I wanted to go over a little bit is the AAE schedule. And this is the payment schedule that the VA has out. I'm going to share my screen with you, and so I can show you the AAE schedule. Okay, hopefully everybody can see that. So this is on the Veterans Administration's website, and this is the schedule that the Veterans Administration uses for the 1394. This is what they'll pay and reimburse. As you can see, they've recently added, here's the recently added area. We were told last time we met with them that they will update this every quarter. So you'll see new items pop on here, such as the dog bone covers. But most of the people really deal with the vehicle conversions and the other items here. So if you haven't had a time to look through this recently, please do. It lists everything that they'll reimburse and pay for. But I wanted to kind of touch on a little bit about what's more important than these numbers here. And it's actually this right here. This is the regulation that dictates how the VA operates when it comes to paying out veterans for adaptive equipment. If you haven't read this, please do take some time and read it, or feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions, because this goes over everything that they can and can't do. Talks about the 2 and 4. It talks about how payments and reimbursements happen, what you need to provide, what you don't need to provide. I know we've dealt with a couple of people that said, well, if it's not on the schedule, they're not going to pay for it. Frankly, that's untrue. It talks about labor and what they'll cover for labor and not, new equipment. But I wanted to get back to the unlisted adaptive equipment. So this is going to be a area that I've spent a lot of time reading and looking into, just because when you guys are modifying vehicles, sometimes it's not, the items that you'll find on here that you need to put in the vehicle. And so the unlisted adaptive equipment is here for that, to kind of really go over how it's what the process looks like. And this is really good to know, because it talks about how they pay. And so they look at all the equipment in the past, and if there's similar ones on the schedule, they're going to use that one. If there's not a similar one on the schedule, they'll look at what's commercially available for the price. And if there's not similar ones on the schedule or commercially available parts, they'll go ahead and just pay the reimbursement of whatever is billed, which is super helpful, because you guys, when you're doing adaptive equipment, you never really know what you need. Another section I really wanted to touch on is section 7, and this talks about how they'll increase the amount they'll pay for the adaptive equipment. Now, in the beginning, they used the 2021 AMPS report from NMEDA to give a baseline. And they're supposed to update it every 12 months from the CPI. But unfortunately, the numbers that you see here on this page are the numbers from the 2021 AMPS report. They haven't updated it, even though in the regulation it's listed that there is, it's required for them to update it based off of the CPI data now, or CPI data. Now, there's been a number of questions. Well, what has the CPI consumer price index? How has it changed over the years, and what would a price be today? And so I'm going to just do a little thought experiment with you guys, if you don't mind. Now, I found a CPI data calculator online. Now, I'm not going to say it's 100%, but I'll give you a kind of brief idea. Let's go ahead and just use the domestic manual side entry floor door. So we'll just pop that in here. We'll calculate the cost of it. So in 2021, they would have paid $31,123. Today, that would be $42,118.40. That's an increase of over 16%. And so, we're hoping that when we get an opportunity to meet with Doug Hollins after he's confirmed, we can really start talking about that. And I'm just going to pause right there, see if there's any questions about the AA's schedule that I can answer before moving on to really how we get more involved.
No, Sean, the only question we have so far is when, or do we know when or how long it'll be before the VA actually updates the AAE schedule, which I believe you have the answer to, is we have no idea.
Right. So by the regulations, they should update it on an annual basis. But I think we can make a strong argument that they haven't updated it at all. So they should base it off of the latest CPI consumer price index data that they have out there, and they should do it now. That would be what we would ask for. So as I mentioned, I've been doing this for about 6 weeks, and over the last 6 weeks, I've met with a lot of different members, from large dealerships to small dealerships. And one of the things that I started to encourage them to do, with the help from me in NMEDA, is to really start reaching out to your congressional members. So your local congressional members that so you can do it one of two ways. You can do it based off of where your business is or based off of where you live, assuming they're in different districts. If they're not, we're going to start a letter writing campaign to start targeting them. And when we target them, we'll also simultaneously target the local senators, the VA chairman, and then the VA secretary. So when they're getting these letters about what the VA is or isn't doing, and what your issues are, we're hitting a number of people throughout the process, just so it's out there. And I know there's a lot of members that have been promised payment and then receive denial letters as well. That's going to be another thing that we're going to hopefully try to tackle very quickly, to get those off of your books so you can start actually doing business and not worry about the back pay. We're also working with a number of other coalition partners, the Paralyzed Veterans of America, United Spinal Association. We're also working with some other dealerships that have brought in outside lobbying firms to deal with individual issues that they're dealing with. I mean, we're really just working, we're trying to hit this on like so many different levels that when we do have the opportunity to get in front of them, we can actually make a big difference. One of the things that we're actually working on is that periodically the VA amends the regulations that lay out how everything is done, and that's coming up. And so, and I'm just going to share it one more time, and I'm going to show you what that regulation looks like. And so this is, as I mentioned, this is kind of really the rule and what it says, but it shows that they're going to have another rule change or another possibly amending the rules or the regulations from in 2025, so this year. So we're gonna lean hard on that to try to get some rules changed. That's why I really do encourage everybody to reread this and see how it affects you. And if there are suggestions that you think would be helpful to change, you guys know this the best. You're living and breathing it every day. So please just, if you see something and you say, Section B, subsection 1, the definition of what eligible person isn't something that makes sense. And they do a lot of changes. I'm going to just kind of try to show you has looked like in the past. So we're going to view the changes from this. And so this is what it originally looked like. And so as you can now see that it's really different this way. So as you can see, they added a lot more to that. And so we do have the opportunity to go through this with a fine-tooth comb and discuss things. It could be, how unlisted adaptive equipment. It could talk about how, we could add things in there on how like new vehicles require new things. And it's not really comparing a 2021 to a 2026 vehicle isn't really helpful. So these are all things that we can really, really try to change. And that's really everything I have to go over. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Sure, Sean, thanks. That was great information. I love that you can guide us to where our federal government is hosting information and posting things that we need to look at. One of the mantras that I've had in my life as an association executive is eventually you either need to get into politics or get out of business. And that's the truth. And it resonates here for us now. So I appreciate you mentioning that we need to cultivate our relationships with our local congresspeople, our senators, their staff. A lot of times folks don't want to get involved in that aspect because they think they're not going to facilitate a change. It's really a relationship business. And you and I have talked about that here in the office. And so whether we can help you write a letter or craft and draft a letter for you to stick your name on, if you're having issues with VA payments, the more your local representative knows, the better off we are. When Sean and I go to DC or we walk into the office of a senator or a congressman, they look at us as paid mouthpiece. That's what we are. But when you, as a constituent who casts a vote for them, can go into their office or write their staff, you will get a much better response, or at least a better reception than we will. They'll hear us, of course, and your resources are being used wisely. I know Sean is part of a coalition and they're planning a February trip to DC, possibly. I think, Sean, you mentioned it earlier. I call it the hurry up and wait game right now with the transition. Not only do we have a brand new president, but he's running at a pace that's crazy. And when he issues an order that every one of the federal employees can either retire or come back to their office, last time I talked to a few of our employees at the VA that we were dealing with, they weren't in an office. So there may be more upheaval possibly in the future. Is that what you're anticipating?
Yeah, I would imagine so. A number that, probably a lot of people don't realize is the Veterans Administration is the largest civilian employee area in the government. They have over 400. I think the last estimate is like closer to 450,000 employees that work for the Veterans Administration. I mean, I know there's a lot of hospitals out there that people are working on site there, but I would imagine, not all of the people who don't work in hospitals work in a building somewhere in Virginia or whatnot. So we'll probably see a lot of turnover. I don't know if that's actually going to affect the day-to-day as much as we would like to think it is. I think it's going to be leaner and meaner. And I think that when we're taking away levels of bureaucracy, we see things start to move a lot quicker overall. I think there will be a couple of bumps along the way, but that's only, going to be a short time pain.
Sure. Thanks. I appreciate that. I think the other thing, it's not really a question, but just a comment that I would have is I hear the frustration of our members, and when we cite the rules and how it's supposed to work, because this is the published rule, a lot of times I'm hearing from our members that, yeah, but they're not following that rule. And I think you and I used the term bureaucracy being so large. I just want to encourage our members and the folks that are listening or the folks that watch this later on, let us know. Let Michaela and Sean know when your local VA isn't following the rules that are published, because that really gives us the ammunition to go figure out what we need to talk about. And Sean, I don't know if you wanted to add on to that as all.
Yeah, I mean, really, Michaela and I, we work tandem. We're kind of like a tag team. She's generally good cop. I'm generally bad cop when it comes to this, because I'm not afraid to go, look, this is what the regulations say. I really don't care what the Fayetteville VA is doing. Like, I've said this, one of the biggest things that I was surprised on how differently all of the other VAs were operating. I said it should be under more like a McDonald's, model where it doesn't matter if you're in Miami or Mulan, a Big Mac is a Big Mac is a Big Mac. And that's the way it should be done, because they should follow the same regulations and kind of use that regulation as like your guide. So when they're telling you that you need to do something a certain way and it's not listed anywhere in the regulations, maybe push back a little bit. I know that you've built up great relationships with a lot of your reps, but things are changing.
Yeah, good comment. We had one other comment come in that one thing that needs to be addressed is the AA is lacking a line item for wheelchair securement bracketry. So Michaela is working on a task force for the AMPS. I know they'll be looking at that. And I think we mentioned earlier, if you have something that's not listed in the AAE schedule, go ahead and bill an invoice for that. They are supposed to be adding these new items to that AAE schedule at the price point that they're invoiced for. And I know we're working in the AMPS task force to make sure we have things like wheelchair securement bracketry in the group. So Sean, thanks for your information. Thanks for the time. I'm glad you're here. I'm going to spend a little time wrapping up now. Again, if you have a question or a comment you want to make, the Q&A button at the top of your screen, please click that. That'll send a question in. We also realize there's a 30 to 40 second lag between what we're saying now and what you hear, so we will give you some time to do that. Thank you so much for those of you that have joined and those of you that will be watching this online here in the future. One thing that I did want to say is we want to hear from you. We want to serve you better. So how can we better serve you? If there's something that you think we can be doing or a topic you want covered in the quarterly town hall meetings, please email myself, Michaela, Sean. All of our emails are available on the website. We're pretty simple. First name dot last name at NMEDA.org. So toby.cummings at NMEDA.org will get it to me. I'll make sure the staff gets the question and the information that you want to hear. So we want to hear from you. Tell us what's important. What are you going through right now? I know I hear a lot of things around the VA and some things with the VR, but what else is happening? I know technician shortage was a topic a while back, and it probably still is a topic and still is a challenge. So please let us know what's important to you. Let us know what you want to talk about in the town hall, and we'd be happy to do that. Trying to wrap up now a little bit. Hold on. I heard another question just came in. Thank you, guys. See, the 30 to 40 second delay is really paying off because we're getting some things. Okay, yes, somebody said they'd heard a rumor. I love this. These are my favorite things for a town hall. Heard a rumor that the CAMS Lunch and Learn is going to be refreshed. And that is true. We are working right now. Ariel is on staff and she is working with Amy Lane to do a refresh of the CAMS Lunch and Learn so that we can have some material and information out to our members to use. Do we have an ETA on that? I'd love to give you an answer, but I'd be lying if I did. So I'm going to tell you, I know who asked the question, and I will get back to you and give you an ETA on that as soon as we have one. But I know Ariel and Amy have met a little bit about that, and they're starting to work on that. So we'll get that out to you. So thanks for asking that question. Again, recapping and wrapping up a few action items that we have that we mentioned earlier that we hope you'll remember. If you have past due invoices for Veterans Administration, the first of the month, we need you to use the spreadsheet that's on the NMEDA website and submit those every month. Try not to skip a month. I know we get busy and we're going to get really crazy busy as the season progresses and it warms up and people are out doing more vehicle allocation and purchases. But every month we need somebody on your team to send us the over 60-day invoices on that spreadsheet with that information. That's the only way that we're assured that we can, track what we're getting paid and what we're not getting paid. So first of the month, use the spreadsheet, send in every month what hasn't been paid and is over 60 days. I'd like to say we're looking for the needle to move. I'd like to say that the work we're putting in here is going to start getting things paid. I'd like to say that again in the middle of the transition with the transition with the VA staff, it could be difficult. Any issues you have with your VA rep not really following the rule that is lined out that Sean pointed out, let us know. If it's crazy wild, and we've seen some crazy wild differences from one VA office asks the invoice to look like X, another asks it to look like Y. Some of them don't even care if there's a signed form somewhere. Anything that's out of the ordinary that doesn't look like the rule, you need to let us know so we can try to get some consistency and uniformity. I know 2 rules that aren't going to go with the VA right now, but we'd love to get some consistency and uniformity with the new administration on how this is happening so that our members can just have ease of getting paid and doing business. So if you have something that's out of the ordinary, let us know. If it's crazy and they're asking you crazy questions, and we've heard some crazy questions, let us know what this looks like so we can see that. Always feel to reach out to us at any time. We are your association. We're here to serve you. You are members. You do pay dues. And so we want to make sure we're available. We are here every day of the week except Saturday and Sunday. Reach out to us. We will get back to you in a very timely manner. I know Michaela and her team in member services love to take phone calls, love to answer any questions they can. And they're really, really good at making sure we get the service that you need. The last thing I will close with is, again, thanking you for being here. The next town hall will be April 30th. So mark your calendars now because it's almost as good as a Senate confirmation hearing or not. But mark your calendars now for April 30th. You will see myself. I'll be back here again introducing a few more staff members. We'll be focusing in on QAP, the Quality Assurance Program, and the manufacturer's QAP, and some of the aspects around that drive value for NMEDA membership. Until then, have a great day, and thanks a lot for being here. We'll see you on April 30th.